Hi guys, it's Iain here, driving instructor. Thanks for tuning in. I've got another book review for you, and this one's got to start with an apology. This is probably one of the most insightful and fantastic books. It's one of the reasons why this book is in the state it is in. I've had the absolute pleasure of meeting the author, Stephen Haley, because he is such a passionate and fantastic individual, and I have a great deal of time and respect for Stephen. So thank you very much for that. But I'm going to show you the book now. It's an absolute state. So as you can see, it's absolutely fallen to bits. And of course, this is a signed copy, which is very sad. But I am very pleased to own a signed copy, and I'm very pleased that it's dog-eared because it means that I've actually read it a number of times, and it's a real go-to for me. Fantastic book. So what's it about? Well, it's in the title really, Mind Driving. It's all to do with the psychology of driving, the approach, what we think about driving and how we feel about it and our emotions around it. And it's a completely different angle that most sort of trainers come to it. And he opened my mind up to some of these things, and really made me start to think differently about using the road and the driving task really. And he questions a lot of the current thinking around it, which I absolutely passionately agree with. There is nothing in this book that I disagree with, and that's very, very rare, very, very rare indeed. And that's probably why it's so dog-eared. But yeah. So what's different about it, and what have I learnt from it? Well, there was a lot of learning in this book. And I suppose the main learning really is looking at the road from a different perspective, in terms of I give you an idea. Car control, which most training tends to focus on, is that section in the back there, which is that slim few pages. I think it's only probably about 10 pages worth, which of course is important for driving, or using the road I should say, but the vast majority of it is other stuff, and if there's a particular page, if I go to that, it really does explain it, and I'll briefly show it to you. But yeah, he sort of puts the driving process into various different sections, which I will discuss and probably potentially in some detail, which he puts on this image here. But essentially he's saying that our knowledge and our beliefs really are the grounding for all this, which is very much what I try and talk about when we're on the road with people. You know, what is your approach to this? What's your philosophy? What do you think? He talks about our thinking processes, which are divided up into separate different things. Of course, the physical actions being part of that. But you know, fitness check, risk assessment, and again, if anybody has any questions on client-centered learning and wants to talk about the new standards check and risk assessment, it's in here. Risk assessment's all about that. Understand the situation, anticipate hazards, identify potential hazards, and assess the degree of danger. And he talks a lot about that. And wow, his approach is fantastic. In some ways in my book I approach it in a similar way, but it is from a slightly different perspective, from my own experience and thoughts, and also research as well. It talks about how we direct our attention, risk control, observation, and then of course the driving situation that we're in, and he goes into quite a bit of detail on some of them things. There's a lot of learning, a hell of a lot of learning inside this book, and one of the things that I really passionately agree with, there's two particular things. One of them is around about the subject of space and space management and having escape routes and managing, you know, how much space do we need, and it's not just need, it's also it goes beyond that. It's not just being able to stop, but being able to stop comfortably. And he very much criticises, and I absolutely agree with, following distances inside the highway code and stopping distances inside the highway code. It's like two slightly separate things, or only just. But the other element is the way in which he sort of calculates risk, which is quite interesting. He almost puts a model in for it, although it's not a mathematical model. And he talks very much around about the subject of surprise again, which again is similar from Ben Collins' book, surprise, speed, space. objects and impact speed and how things would pan out really in the event of an incident. So wow, I mean, what a book. I actually suggested this when I was quite early in my career to a student, and when I first got the book, and the student went away and read the book, and he came back and he said, oh, last few weeks I've read the book now, and he kept quoting statements from him, and I went, wow, that's incredible. Where did you get that from? So it's from the book, and it really was fantastic. I haven't got to some of those stages yet. One thing I will say, and it's the only real criticism, apart from the binding, of course, and by the way, from memory as well, Stephen Haley, also self-published, initially, I believe, is that it's extremely heavy, and this comes from somebody. I am dyslexic. Even so, I'm fairly intelligent, and sometimes you read a page or even a paragraph and your head is spinning and whoa, that's really heavy, a lot to take in. So, and it just shows the quality and the content. It's not a particularly thick book, but the quality of what's inside there and the real depth of thought is really interesting. So, massive amount of learning inside the book. Very, very highly recommended. Please go and have a look at it online. I'm sure you can get it. It says $12.99. Again, I'm sure there's some deals available on it. What's interesting actually is Stephen Haley has approached the Driving Standards Agency, as it was then, and asked them to change some things or their philosophy towards it. He's also gone to Department for Transport, his MP, and talked about some of the things that he believed in the book and tried to change them, particularly around about the subject of young drivers and how we train them and how we develop them. And he didn't get very far, and he was quite upset by that. So anybody that wants to speak to him about changing the way in which we deal with young drivers and changing possibly the driving test or approach, please feel free to contact him and get involved, because he's absolutely passionate about that subject. And when he came to do a talk at our local association of driving instructors, he was incredible, and everybody knew that I enjoyed his company there. Because his philosophy is great, but great book. Go and have a look. Very heavy, but some great learning. I'd recommend this for every single driving instructor, and of course my own book. But it's not quite written yet. But some fantastic insights into here. And again, if you're looking at risk management and how to manage risk, some great insights on how you do that inside here. But hopefully the one you'll get, I'm certainly not going to be able to resell this online. I wouldn't do anyway. Hopefully yours won't look quite as bad as this. But go and have a look. Thanks for listening. I'll see you again soon. Thank you.